First tonight, one of our police forces has been ordered to make urgent improvements to protect vulnerable children. An inspection report has raised concerns about how Derbyshire Police deals with everything from sexting to county lines drugs gangs. Well, the Chief Constable has told us that she accepts very critical findings and that changes are already being made. Well, our social affairs correspondent Jeremy Bull is here. Hello to you, Jeremy. Pretty serious concerns then raised by these inspectors.
Yes, and a very clear, very serious conclusion. Derbyshire Constabulary is not effectively safeguarding children, and child protection in Derbyshire requires urgent improvement. There's a confused response, the inspectors say, to children going missing. That meant no one looked for youngsters who disappeared from care homes. They're worried the force wasn't working well with other child protection agencies, and they're also worried about a disjointed approach to protecting some vulnerable children at risk of being groomed into helping violent drugs gangs. Dashcam footage from a taxi, a boy sent to deal drugs in Derby by what's known as a county lines gang. The cab driver was jailed, but today's report shone a light on the children recruited by criminals. It's one of a string of concerns raised by the latest inspection of Derbyshire Police.
We didn't think that they were prioritising child protection enough, talking and listening to children more, so understanding their situation, understanding their concerns. When children go missing from care homes, treating that as a priority, vulnerable children go missing and recording, and making sure that not just attending meetings, but they really take action.
Concerns that have prompted a swift response from Derbyshire's Chief Constable. Rachel Swan says she absolutely accepts the findings. She's already doubled the size of a team that deals with indecent images of children online, and she's reviewing the police response to reports of children going missing from care.
Very concerned by what we found. You know, there are children there that we need to protect, so it's vitally important that we take it seriously and we do something about it, from the call come into the control room to the investigator dealing with the offence. It's a very critical report, you're absolutely right, and it is at the heart of what we do in terms of protecting people.
Have children in Derbyshire been failed by the police?
I think the HMIC FRS report is clear that there are vast improvements that need to be made, and we have made some of those improvements already, and we're committed to carry on and making those improvements.
It's around a decade since Debyshire Police made headlines for tackling child sexual exploitation after Operation Retriever and Operation Kern, two high-profile inquiries. Those victims were supported by the Derby charity Safe and Sound.
Things change, demand changes, county lines, 15 years ago, and we are very much in a situation we were when children were called child prostitutes, that children involved in county lines are not being seen as victims. So I think there is some work to do around county lines to progress that, and I'm confident we'll be able to do it by working together collectively.
Today's inspection report recognises that Derbyshire Police is starting to do more to keep children safe, but the inspectors say they'll be back to check that the force has made urgent improvements.
So, Jeremy, why were these inspectors so worried?
Well, because they found so many cases where Derbyshire's child protection simply wasn't up to scratch. They looked at 79 in all. Only 20 of those were good enough. And they say one big reason for this was the fact that there wasn't proper training during the pandemic.
And how serious were those failures?
Oh, some very serious cases. One where a 16-year-old boy repeatedly went missing from care. Now, they had intelligence he'd previously been threatened with a gun, that he was being exploited by criminals, but an officer simply left a note to check that he came back the following morning. In another case, a vulnerable teenage girl went missing with an older man who'd been served with a child abduction warning, but that investigation was closed. Just 2 weeks later, she was drugged and she was sexually assaulted by the very same offender.
I mean, were there any kind of good examples at all?
Yeah, one case where a girl dialed 999 and asked for a pizza. Now, the control room operator sensed something wasn't right, so she sent officers round to check. At that point, the girl disclosed to officers that she'd actually been raped by a relative who was still there. What that meant was they could start that all-important child protection process.
OK, Jeremy, leave it there. Thanks very much indeed for that.